right, Kaden, welcome to the 8th Lane podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to finally chat with you. I think the first time I'd reached out was like almost a year ago when you were like preparing to do the Rocky Mountain Slam, and now you've done the Rocky Mountain Slam.
Yep.
So it's cool. I'm excited to be able to talk to you on the other side. Do you want to give our listeners who aren't familiar with who you are just kind of a brief introduction to yourself and kind of what you do?
Yeah. So, for those who don't know me, I'm Kaden Coleman. I consider myself pretty low key, but I'm a 25-year-old firefighter paramedic here in Utah. I originally grew up outside of Philadelphia, and I've been in Utah for like 4 years now. And I guess you could call me a trail runner, endurance enthusiast, mountain enthusiast, all of the above.
So why'd you come to Utah? Was that a like mountain thing, or was that a like something else, school thing?
I think the biggest reason was family. My dad grew up out here, so a lot of his brothers and sisters are out here. And I was looking to get outside of the East Coast and kind of progress in life in a new direction. And so it just seemed like it had good opportunities. I had friends out here that let me stay with them when I first came out and just kind of start new. So I came out, and I originally came out to do school and throw javelin at UVU.
Cool.
And that kind of got not old, but it got a little boring, and I just didn't see like a great future where I fit into it. And so I ended up getting into firefighting and just kind of established my roots into that and ended up staying here.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So was your intro to firefighting wildland, or how did you start there?
Yeah. My first year was wildland. So I had some friends that were doing it up at UFA. They got me kind of a spot on one of the crews and ended up spending a year doing wildland training and had a blast. That was, to this day, is still my favorite job ever. Sometimes I think about leaving the structure side to just go back to wildland.
It sounds so fun. It's crazy because like I feel like every race I run or every like event I go to, I meet someone who like either is doing wildland or has done wildland. So I feel like there's like a huge correlation between the communities.
It's really fun because it's all physical work, and at the end of the day, it's for, to save forests. Like there's not a lot of people that are directly affected, or like you don't necessarily see the people that are directly affected. You're just doing work for the greater good. And it's just traveling around all summer with your friends and just hanging out, camping in the forest, being outside. So it's very similar to ultra running and spending lots of time outdoors running. So that's probably why there's a lot of overlap there.
Yeah. Did you get started into ultra running while you were doing wildland, or was that something you'd done before you came to Utah? This episode is brought to you by Mercedes Benz Van Center Warner, Utah's largest selection of recreational and commercial vans for all purposes, new, pre-owned, and rentals. They are passionate about supporting the running and active community in Utah. Check them out at mbvancenterwarner.com.
Yeah, so I've always kind of like pushed myself to do like different challenges and kind of find my own personal limits. And a lot of it correlates with what I do with work and kind of what I want to accomplish in life with my body and physical challenge. So I started out by running a marathon, and that was kind of the same time that I started the wildland firefighting. And I met one of my best friends ever to this day named Daniel Lamthach. And he told me about ultra marathons and, adventure training and all these crazy ideas. And, he would spit off stuff from Jared Campbell's blog all the time. And I was like, dude, you're crazy. Like, I don't even want to hang out with you. Like, why would anyone want to run 100 miles, And the first thing he ever invited me out to do that I said yes to was a bike and hike up Mill Creek Canyon, and then we did Gobbler's Knob and got the whole Glissade experience and everything, and borderline about to crash my bike on the way down because I'm just exhausted, but it was like one of the most fun days of my life. And so I started training really hard with him and going off and doing all these different adventures. We ticked off a lot of Jared Campbell's projects in the LaSalle's and a lot of different really cool things. And that's kind of what kicked it all off. And Daniel ended up going missing about 2 years ago in the San Juan Range out in Colorado. And so I think that's definitely part of what drives me to keep pushing my boundaries now. And a lot of the stuff that I do, like I think about him still, and it's kind of like a tribute and kind of continuing on this thing that he kind of lit in me. So
yeah. I think it's like the ultra running community is cool because it's rooted in like kind of the two things you were just talking about with you and Daniel. Like friendship is like a huge thing. And then B is like just the adventure of it all and like trying to I don't know, just have an adventure almost.
Yeah, there's a lot of experiences to be had. And I think especially with social media, like you get a lot of stuff about like competition and wanting to like always push the envelope, and like you can kind of, if you can kind of look past that, like the fun's in the training, the fun's in the adventures and the experiences that you have with other people. And so that's something that I think he really installed in me, is like, you know, there's a time and a place for competition and pushing yourself, and there's also a time and a place for just experiencing whatever nature has to offer you or other people around you. You know, it's amazing, like the people that he alone brought together just within his small community. Like my best friend now is a guy that I met because of him, and we started hanging out after he went missing, and now he's teaching me how to, you know, ski tour and like do all these things, and we have this awesome friendship that was built purely because of Daniel and what he did. So yeah, that left a mark on me, and that's kind of what I try to do with my running too.
That's very cool. I'm sorry to hear about Daniel. It's like, it's scary. Like with these big mountain sports, it's so hard because there's like a level. Yeah, it's just so hard to like see friends leave sometimes.
Yeah. Thank you.
So some of Jared Campbell's stuff is really technical. Are you into like kind of technical projects with like climbing involved, or is it more like verti running stuff?
Yeah. So I love that stuff. Like the different scrambles, the climbing. Like I want to be a master of like multi-sport. Like I want to know how to ski. I want to know how to climb. I want to understand how to do everything safely and be able to have these like really awesome multi-sport adventures with like doing it as safely as possible, obviously. So the objective that Daniel actually went missing on, the friend that I'm talking about, his name's Lucas. Everybody calls him Bill. Him and I actually went out before Ouray as like kind of part of my training for Ouray this year. And we did the same objective that Daniel went missing on. But it was really cool because it was like, it's got like a 13-mile run in. You end up climbing like a 5-6 scramble up this like super steep wall called Vestal Peak. And then you traverse across 3 other peaks called the Trinity Peaks, and then kind of just backtrack through, bushwhack back to the trail and run back to the car.
Jeez, what is that called?
So I mean, it's just the Vestal Peak and then
okay.
the Trinity Traverse.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you like combine the two. That's crazy.
Yeah, it just has a really long approach. Like that's really the hardest part about it. But
so it sounds like you don't really have a huge background in climbing. Is that something that just came as you got more into the mountains?
Yeah, I would say so. I climbed a little bit when I was in Pennsylvania. Like I always had fun going to the gyms and stuff, but not really like outdoors a whole bunch. That's something that coming out here and being exposed to the mountains, and everybody talks about the accessibility, like finding those friends that are into the same things and passionate about it, and kind of finding the mentors that will teach me the right way to do it instead of just, you know, kind of going for it and potentially putting myself in harm's risk, if that makes sense.
Yeah. How do you deal with, I'm always so interested because like the climbing and like, I don't know, like sheer aspect of running and like mountaineering is so intimidating to me, honestly. So like talking to someone like you or like Kelly Halpin or Jen Denton, like your risk aversion seems to be, like in my mind, it seems to be so much different. But like how, I don't know, how do you view risk aversion, or how do you view things like that?
I think like it all starts with like your planning, your preparation, right? Like when you're researching an objective or you have something in mind, like you kind of have to know your limitations and also know like what's safe versus not safe. And then you have to like be honest with yourself and find partners who are willing to kind of like check you on that. And obviously there's a lot of like solo efforts that get done, and I think that's just a further level of like comfortability with the risk. But it takes time to kind of build that up and like learn what you're okay with, what you can and can't do. Like there's things that I know I can't do that Kelly Halpin can probably do blindfolded.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just the process of learning that and then assessing like, okay, what am I okay with? And then constantly reassessing that like as you're going through like an objective as well. And it's it's like cliff diving. Like you don't start by jumping 90 feet, you start by jumping 20 and then you try 25, or even like an ultra, like most people don't start by going straight for a 100-miler. They go for 50K and then they want to do a 50-mile, and it's the same, just building that kind of resistance to the risk or the fear, I guess.
Getting comfortable, I guess, with the environment too. Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know if that's like the route I want to go down, but it's like super intriguing to me. And I really admire you guys who are like good technical mountain athletes.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and I mean, I hope to just keep getting better. Like at the end of the day, like I think my overall goals are get into big mountains and like have these experiences that not everybody on this earth gets to have, and it's something that you have to work for, just like working for an ultra marathon.
So I want to get into your Rocky Mountain Slam experience. For our listeners who don't know what the Rocky Mountain Slam is, do you want to just kind of give a brief description of what it is and like what it entails, what makes it difficult?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of people confuse it with the Grand Slam of ultra running. And they're kind of two different slams that go way back in time from when kind of all these ultras started popping up. The Rocky Mountain Slam used to consist of Bighorn, Wasatch, Leadville, Hard Rock, and the Bear. And the only stipulation is that you had to finish with the Bear. And maybe Leadville wasn't one of the original ones. I think Hard Rock, Wasatch, Bighorn, and the Bear might have been the original 4. But they've expanded it now just because of lotteries and everything. They've added Scout Mountain 100, Wyoming Range 100, and Ouray 100 to kind of have options to hit your 4 different races. So based off of lotteries and what you want to run, you select 4 races. The last one has to be the Bear, and you do it in one summer, and they add up your cumulative time, and you kind of get ranked. But like everybody's route to finishing a Rocky Mountain Slam is different. So yeah,
that's cool. Why did they choose those races initially? I mean, they're all really difficult races.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the Grand Slam of ultra running was a lot of like the original races, like Wasatch and like Angeles Crest and Old Dominion, like those original kind of more like runnable hundreds. The Rocky Mountain Slam is all about like big mountains, like big races with lots of vert. Every single race on paper has more than 20,000 feet of vert, so definitely different than a lot of the flatter old school races. And so just big mountain races that are typically a little harder than just like your normal runnable 100.
Yeah. And I mean, time on feet too, and like the fatigue that like it puts on your muscles to do like big mountain days like that. The recovery game, like, I mean, it's really difficult with the Grand Slam.
Yeah.
But I feel like with the Rocky Mountain Slam, it gets like crazy difficult.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword because, you're not necessarily running as much depending on like your level of fitness or like what you're aiming to achieve with the Rocky Mountain Slam. And so sometimes like that hiking is a little bit easier to recover from than like Javelina 100. I imagine like if you're running that whole entire race at a 6-minute pace or whatever, you're going to be out for a little while kind of hurting, as opposed to like hiking up and down the mountains. It's a lot more like muscular strength and kind of taking care of your body, like almost similarly to like you would in like a weightlifting setting or a gym setting. So at least that's what I found.
Your experience. Yeah. So which ones did you choose?
So I did Scout Mountain 100, followed by Ouray 100, and then the Wyoming Range 100, and then the Bear 100.
Did you always plan to have Ouray in there? Or was that like I didn't get into Leadville type of thing?
Well, so I didn't get into Wasatch, Leadville, or Hard Rock.
Okay.
And I could have done Scout Mountain and then Bighorn the next week.
Oh.
That was one option that I considered. But kind of like I have a lot of respect for like the history of ultra running and the people that have come before me. And so thinking that people used to pretty much have to do Hard Rock, like it didn't feel right to avoid like a harder race.
Yeah.
And so that kind of drew me to Ouray, and I'd always wanted to do Ouray anyways. And so I was like, you know what, like that's going to be the crux of the race. Like I want to include that and kind of keep it as close to the traditional style as I can. And I'm super glad I did, because Ouray was like the coolest experience ever.
It looked amazing. I can't wait to get into that one. That's like such a monster of a race. It's definitely on my bucket list.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm very drawn to that. But maybe let's start with Scout Mountain.
Hmm.
Or like, what did you do leading up to it? Like, how did your training look? Are you like a high volume trainer, or are you
Hmm.
like low volume trainer?
So leading up to it is very high volume. Time is like a super precious commodity for me, and I have to pay like a lot of attention to my body with work. Like there's weeks where I work 4 or 5 out of 7 days, and I get to sleep at work, which is a plus that a lot of people don't have, but that's if we don't have calls. So a lot of nights like I'm up all night, and then hitting a trailhead after a 3-day shift of potentially not sleeping very much.
Mm.
But as much volume as I can and I'm comfortable doing, that's kind of what I was putting out. So I kind of established over the winter like a winter race schedule just to kind of keep myself true and honest to the training. So I did 2 different roofer races. I did a snowshoe race up in Midway.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Yeah,
How was that?
it was fun.
Mhm.
It was very different.
Did you wear snowshoes the whole
Yeah,
time?
yeah. So they have these snowshoes that are kind of more like trail running shoes.
Are they the crescent ones?
Yeah, the
Okay, I've
crescent
seen
shoes.
those.
And so I got some of those like a week before the race and
Uh,
hadn't really trained on them. And then I ran that race really hard. Like all of the winter races, I wanted to push myself, like competitive, like kind of ignore the experience a little bit just to get the training aspect out of it.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, it was brutal. It tore up my legs in ways that I
I
wouldn't
can't
have
even
expected.
imagine. I cannot imagine.
And then I had all my friends that were making fun of me for snowshoeing when they were out ski touring and
You're
doing all
like
this cool stuff.
holding up your like crescent boot.
Yeah, it's my
They
poor
look
man
so
skis.
cool. Oh, it's so funny.
But yeah, so I did a bunch of races kind of early on in the year, the Rufa races that are awesome. And then I kind of flipped it into the spring. I did a back-to-back like 50-mile weekend with the Bonneville Backyard, and then went up to Oregon and did the Tillamook Burn 50
Wow.
not long after. And both of those races I pushed. Like the Bonneville was kind of like a easy effort, like get to 50, have a lot of fun with my friends. And then Tillamook was like, okay, I want to go all out, like set a 50-mile PR and get all that training from it on tired legs, and it was super beneficial.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun. And how close was that to Scout Mountain? Was that your last like big race before?
Yeah, and if I remember, I was like the first or second week of May.
Okay.
And Scout Mountain was like second week of June, so I had like a month to kind of start to taper off. And I didn't taper a ton for Scout Mountain. Like I figured Ouray was going to be the crux of the whole experience, so I kind of kept building all the way into Scout Mountain, and then used Scout Mountain as more training for Ouray. And then after Scout Mountain, that's when I like really dialed back the training in between races and focused on like heavy recovery, like as much as I could in the sauna, ice baths, stretching, weight room, kind of all that stuff. And then whenever I felt comfortable and like good to run, I would kind of throw in volume to maintain throughout what I was doing. So yeah, Scout Mountain was awesome, like super fun race.
It's what, 20, I think I wrote this down, 22,000? Yeah, like 22,000 feet of gain,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
How's the terrain there? I've heard it's kind of dusty.
Yeah, it can be kind of hot. It's almost like I compared it after I ran it to Crazy Mountain 100, but at a
Okay.
lower elevation.
Mm.
Like it has a lot of the same like technical aspect of like when you get up into the mountains and you're crossing over like ridge lines, and there's definitely like a lot of technical aspect. I'm like at mile 85, there's like 1,000-foot glissade that you can do.
Gosh.
So it's like, it's definitely not just like your normal
That you can do, or is it like you kind of need to do this to?
I think you can avoid it, but it's like, why would you?
Oh.
Because
Yeah,
it's
true.
just so fun. Like you just sit and slide, and some people were kind of scared, and it was kind of cool to be like, no, look, just do this and
Yeah.
just jump and slide. Like you get 1,000 feet descent for free pretty much.
Mhm.
But yeah, so it was pretty cool. It's just at a little bit of a lower elevation than some of these other races. Like Ouray obviously is super high up and even more alpine than Scout Mountain was. But it's a relatively runnable course, and the biggest problem is the heat. And
Mm.
it starts at noon, and so you kind of deal with 2 different days unless you can put down like a really fast time. And my biggest problem is I kind of got behind on the heat in the first half, And I was like, oh, I'll kind of fix it in the night. Like I've been here before. I can do that.
Mhm.
And then I swear it was like 85 degrees all night still.
Oh my gosh. That's
So it was like
annoying.
the most miserable night like ever. And then the second day I was like, all right, we're just gonna finish this thing. And but yeah, it was a way cool course. Luke Nelson's a phenomenal race director, and it was really cool too because it's so close to like the Wasatch that like I kept running into friends everywhere. Like Elsa was there, and
That's cool.
like a ton of other people that I wouldn't have, like, I guess I should have expected them to be there, but just seeing them gives you that extra little boost of like, oh man, like friends are here. Like,
yeah, someone I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is fun. So during Scout, how were you feeling about the Grand Slam or
I was done.
the Rocky Mountain?
I was done.
You were done.
I think I got to like mile 50, like kind of that second half of the race. I was telling everyone like, hey, like I'm still going to go out to Ouray because I really want to. I was like, but Ouray's it. Like, I'm not going to finish the slam. I
was
like,
it the heat, do you think? Or
yeah. And I mean, hundreds are hard. Like,
yeah.
They're super hard. And to imagine having to do 3 more, I was like, this is just dumb. Like, why would anyone want to go through that? You know? I was like, it's really cool and all the races are awesome, but I'll just go experience them like one at a time. Like, why do I have to do all 4? And so I told everybody that I was done, but I was still going to do Ouray. And then yeah,
you're just like announcing it at the race, just set the disclaimer.
Yeah, no, everyone was laughing like, oh man, like, and
sure.
Yeah, so but I still really wanted to do Ouray. Like I couldn't get that out of my mind, so I knew I was gonna at least go try Ouray and see how it went.
And so between Scout and Ouray, that's probably like a month and a half, 6 weeks ish.
Yeah, somewhere around there, 6 or 7 weeks.
Maybe like halfway through, you went out to the La Salles to do that route that your friend got lost in.
The San Juans.
Oh, the San Juans.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So kind of in the same area as the race itself, Ouray. So
those are huge mountains.
Yeah,
they're scary.
It's
and
crazy
fun.
too. And that was my first time out there, and I was like, I didn't even know like this range existed, and it's not even far away. I'm like, why don't more people go to Ouray and Silverton? But anyways, actually, Ouray and Silverton is kind of lame. Don't go there. But we'll just keep that a little bit.
Yeah, it's actually super dumb.
No, but so I went out. I stacked a bunch of vacation time and did some like trades with other paramedics in my department, which I couldn't have done it without them. So that was super cool that they were willing to trade shifts around with me. And I took about like a whole month just to live out of my truck and go take off alpine projects. And I volunteered at Hard Rock, which was really cool to be in that environment and see that. And yeah, I just kind of trained, got acclimated to elevation. I did a couple like shorter runs on the course just to see kind of what Ouray would be like, and just built up like a ton of stoke. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful out there. Do you feel like the time you spent, so how many weeks were you out there before the race?
About 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
So do you feel like that was necessary for you to finish? Do you feel like how do you feel like that related to like you finishing?
I think so. The first week I was out there, I pushed a lot of like big alpine projects, like the one I told you about earlier. Like that's like a marathon day with I think like 6,000 or 7,000 feet of gain and like a lot of technical stuff. And so I pushed, and then I kind of chilled out like as Hard Rock started and just did like lighter objectives, tried to get as high as I could just to get the elevation change. And yeah, it was pretty mellow the last like week, 2 weeks out from the race, just kind of getting used to everything.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
So tell me about Ouray. Like, how did that go? What was your experience?
It was awesome. It's such an interesting race, and you've had some experience out there, right? Like you're familiar with how the course is kind of like that weird spidery centipede looking
like
course.
Weird like
a bunch of out and backs
and loops. I DNF'd Ouray 50 in maybe 21 or 22. I can't remember, but it was gorgeous.
And so that's like the back half, right? Yeah. So
no, actually, I think we were the back half.
Yeah,
you're right.
Cool. Yeah, no, but so like you got to kind of experience that like out and back feeling.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because like you start off, and some friends like Jonathan told me that a lot of people start out super quick in the race. Like I think the year that he did it, he said like over 60 people were under course record like before the first 50. Jeez. But then like everybody dropped, and he ended up being like close. I think he was top 10 that year.
Wow.
And so I like the whole time I kind of had that in the back of my mind, like watching everyone pushing like really hard in the
Yeah.
beginning. And I just kind of chilled out. Like I met a lot of really cool people. Like Joe Corcione was out there. I ran with him for a little while, and just really cool to like get to see all these people. And I kind of eased into it. And it's interesting because as you do these out and backs, like you see people that are running the same exact race as you, and you see like the people that are kind of falling back, the people that are building up, and there's a lot of like this like mutual support system that kind of grew throughout the race. And it got really hard. Like there was a lot of storms. Like I was running into hailstorms, lightning storms up at 13,000 feet. And it's kind of crazy, like the power you get from like being with a group of people, like people that you don't even know. Like coming up over one ridge, we're hearing lightning and we're only 100 feet away, but it's super easy to be like, all right, if you guys are here, like we don't want to add another 3,000 foot climb, so let's all just go for it. And
Yeah.
it kind of like empowers you to like just do these crazy things. And as the race goes on, like seeing who still is in the race and who's still fighting, and then just supporting each other as like you're passing up and down, was just such a cool, unique thing for a race like that.
Yeah, and Ouray is like such a battle. I don't know that we've said, most people are probably familiar with like the elevation on it, but there's like 42,000 feet of elevation.
Something crazy.
It's like something
that. Over
insane.
40 though.
Yeah, and it's like straight up, and then like sometimes you cross a pass where it's like kind of runnable, and then like straight down.
Yeah,
there's always like
it's
a
either
storm
up or
that
down.
rolls in. Isn't there like a kind of a technical section at like mile?
Yeah, and
90.
I was kind of worried about that, but like training out here in the Wasatch, like it felt like pretty comfortable. But I don't know, maybe I'm desensitized to that a little bit. I didn't think there was anything too bad though. I think that's the Twin Peaks ascent that you're probably talking about, and it's really not anything crazy.
Yeah, I remember seeing I was coming up to like the first pass we were supposed to go over, and I saw one of the 100-mile runners coming down with a pacer next to him, and literally like looked like a corpse.
Yeah.
And I would just like remember being like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm not like running that right now. That looks scary.
It was crazy because like it's super intimidating, but like you just kind of keep going. And like I tried to sleep a lot. Like I think I spent like over 2 hours trying to sleep, but I only slept maybe like 12 minutes the whole race. And yeah, it's just like a long race. Like
how long did it take you?
Just over 40 hours. So
nice.
Yeah, it was really fun, and I was really proud with my performance on it. And I genuinely believe like I could have gone even faster during it, but like there was a lot of really personal, like deep connections that I made with people in that race, that like coming down the bridge to heaven, that last section, like it was impossible for me not to stop and have like a 5-10 minute conversation with everybody that I passed. Because by that point it's like, dude, like everyone's going up for their final climb. Like you're gonna make it at that point, you know. And some people were in like the deepest, like darkest spot of the whole entire race, and just to be able to like chat with them for 5 minutes and be like, hey, look, like you're almost there, you know. And it wasn't worth any time off my time, you know. That's one of those opportunities to let go of the competition and just enjoy it.
Yeah, that's again like my favorite part about this sport and the community is that like it's about the experience for most people. Like of course there are like a lot of people who are here to push, and there's a time for you to push, but like that's kind of the coolest part, is like the stories and the people that you are able to meet.
I kind of drew a connection to it one time, like firefighting, paramedicine, like we talk a lot about these things called distracting injuries. So like say you pull up to a car accident and you notice somebody has like a really bad broken leg. It's really easy to get locked into the broken leg and like freak out about that. Like, okay, we need to take care of this. But what you could be missing is like a spinal injury or a head injury or something that's potentially more life threatening. So we label that as a distracting injury. And I kind of like correlate that with ultra running and these experiences sometimes. Like sometimes we get so caught up in whatever agenda that we have that it's really easy to miss like what life has to show us, or what nature, people, like what we can gain from these experiences. And so, yeah, I think it's super important to kind of analyze that and think about that when you're doing these things, because there's so much more to be gained than just finishing a 100-mile course or, you know, winning or whatever the objective you have is.
Yeah, for sure. Some of the coolest people are the people that I've met at races. And sometimes I think it is easy to like be daunted by the task ahead of you, especially at something like Ouray, where like, at least for me, like when I get nervous, I get very like clammed up kind of, and I just like am focused on like what I need to do.
For sure.
But if you just like open up and like talk to the people around you, it feels easier, time passes faster, and like it's not such like a scary event.
And it's crazy what you can do for yourself by helping somebody else also, you know, if you're willing to kind of break out of that clamshell and be that support, like even if you're hurting or whatever, you know, leaving an interaction like that, if like say you just pass by someone and you're both hurting, you know, both of you are going to pass like by each other and just keep in that suck, you know. But if you initiate that, like, hey, like let's stop and like let's chop it up for a minute and tell some jokes or whatever it is, like both of you can leave that enlightened and just like that much closer as like two individuals doing the same hard thing, which is really cool.
So after Ouray, I mean, finishing, what did that feel like? I guess
it felt insane. Like I think I knew that I could do it the whole time, but like to date, that was like the hardest thing that I had done or set out to do. And so I think like coming down and like feeling like, whoa, like I still have energy, like this is insane. Like it just was this like super surreal moment. And it's crazy too, Ouray, because you get down there and it's like there's no finish line. Like
it was like a cone.
It's a dark field and there's 2 cones. And then like it's just super like anticlimactic, and it's like, dude, like I just did like one of the hardest races in the country, like maybe even the world, and like it's over. You know, but it's really cool to like finish that and like be able to know that I did that, you know. I always laugh because like people talk about Leadville like it's the hardest race in the whole entire world, and everyone's like, oh, but it's like so high, and it's like, okay, well, Ouray has 4 times the amount of elevation gain and it's higher.
I know. But what is the course record on Ouray?
It got broken the year that I did it, or that I just finished it. It was I would butcher it if I said. I honestly don't remember.
Okay, I feel like it was like 30.
I want to say under 36 or something like that. Something
very, very fast.
Yeah.
But like, for example,
which seems crazy because it's a 100-miler and people run them in like 17 hours. But and that blew my mind too. Like seeing the leaders, like one of the leaders was like throwing up at an aid station that I threw up at. And after like he like packs up his stuff and he's like, man, you're catching up to me. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, what are you talking about? But it's just crazy to see that like these people that are just these insane athletes they struggle the same way, you know. They're just somehow more dialed in and more fit, or whatever the key to success for them is.
The comparison to Leadville, I think Leadville, the cutoff is 30 hours, and like no one's ever finished Ouray like even 5 hours close to that. It's such a crazy cool race. Like everyone should experience one of those passes. Hopefully I will do it one day.
Way cool. You should.
So finishing Ouray, did you like kind of take some confidence from that and be like, okay, I can finish the Rocky Mountain Slam? Or
no, excuse me. I still was like anti-slam, like doing Ouray and finishing Ouray. I was like I left my name in the Wyoming Range, and there was a deadline for like a full refund for the race. And I let it pass instead of just pulling it because I was like, who knows? Like maybe I'll change my mind. And I was like, nope, like I'm going to just eat the money, and like I'm just not going to do it, you know? And it was kind of this like really weird mental battle, like when I got home, of like I'm halfway done with this like huge task now. And if I don't finish this, like what am I going to think? Like, and then there's obviously like the other side that's like, okay, if I don't finish this and I want to do it again, then I have to do the other races again. And it's like, might as well just finish the job while I'm here, you know? And
so what was pushing you to not finish it? Like, what was that, like, not excuse, but like, what was your reasoning?
I think I started to kind of like lose the why a little bit.
Okay.
Like I started to question like, why am I doing this? Like why, like what are my motives behind it? Like why am I suffering this much? Like, because they're hard races. Like just those first two is 60,000 feet of vert, and I had like less than 2 weeks to get ready for Wyoming Range, where I was going to get another 30. And so I started to lose that why a little bit. And I think once I kind of found that again, I was able to say, okay, you know what, like let's just go try this, you know, like we need to finish this job, like figure out where my limitations are, and that's kind of what ultimately like made me flip things back around.
So for you, how did like finding your why go? Like for some people, like I've heard people do like they were on a run and like suddenly they realized, was it like a sudden thing? Was it a build up? Did you have to like convince yourself into something?
I don't think I had to convince myself. Like I think it was always kind of there. I
Mm.
think one of the other biggest parts, and like this is me kind of analyzing it like as I'm thinking about it, but I think part of the thing too was I was taking away so much attention from the rest of life,
Oh
like to
yeah.
accomplish this thing. Like work, like I would come back and have to work like crazy overtime, and you know, I'm like, I feel like I'm slacking in my medical skills when I'm responding to these calls, like to take care of people, or, you know, maybe like I'm being a little bit too rude to my wife because I'm just tired and beat up all the time, and taking away from like friendships and everything else that's going on in life.
Yeah.
And I think I realized like, you know, like everyone that said they were supporting me, like was still supporting me. And I kind of had to like take it back and be like, okay, like, is it worth it for me to keep doing this or not? And so it was a gradual like build up of like that internal debate for those 2 weeks, like literally up until like 2 nights before Wyoming Range. And like I sat down and I talked with my wife, and I was like, you know what, like let's pack up all the camping stuff. Like I'm gonna go for it, you know. And it's just nothing but support after that.
So thinking back on it, do you feel like you could articulate your why now of like why did you continue to finish?
I
Like boiled down, I guess.
I continued to finish because I needed to figure out like, is this a limitation for me? Like, am I
Okay.
going to accept that and be okay with that? Or do I need to like continue to push and continue to see like where the official breaking point was? And then it also was like this realization of like, I think I tend to have kind of a lone wolf mentality sometimes. Like I like to think I can handle everything on my own, or and yeah, that goes way deeper than that. But realizing that people are in my life to support me, just how like I'm trying to support them, and accepting that like was a huge like realization point of, you know, like, okay, I have what it takes to get through this goal. I've got the support. I need to be okay with allowing other people to support me through this, and finish it, you know. Like I would regret it if I didn't try. And so that was ultimately kind of what the why of continuing on.
That's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like for me too, one thing that always makes me nervous about like big races for me is like inconveniencing others
Mm-hmm.
and like them not having a good time.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
that's like, that stresses me out so much. Like if I think like my crew's out here, they've all like traveled to come support me, and then they're
Mm-hmm.
like not having a good time. Like that really stresses me out. But
Yeah.
I think part of being a part of a community is realizing that like I enjoy crewing races, and I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy like kind of not having a good time
Right.
like during other people's like big pushes. And so like why wouldn't
Yeah.
other people like feel the same way, I
Yeah,
guess.
exactly.
And yeah, again, that's just like why it's so special and why you can like create like such cool friendships out of all of this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like I had gained so many experiences and like cool things from the first two races that it also was like, okay, like I don't want to limit those from continuing in, you know.
Yeah.
And like there's just so much more to like explore here, and yeah, if I fail, I fail, but at least then I know I tried, you know.
Mm. So how did Wyoming Range go?
It was brutal. So it's hilarious because like I thought Ouray was gonna be the crux, and Wyoming Range, like 100% was the crux.
Really?
It is such a hard race.
Wait, so explain that race to me because I'm not super familiar with it.
So yeah, the race director's name is Dennis Cook, and he's a madman. Like the course that he put together, it's so off trail, like it's grizzly infested. Like
Did you see
there's
any
only
grizzlies?
uh-huh.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You're like, is this a hallucination or is this a grizzly?
Yeah. Well, and that was the crazy part too. And of course, like me being me and making that last minute decision, like I didn't want to inconvenience anyone, so I decided to just do it solo. And oh man, it was so hard. Like, because all night long and all day, like you're looking for these pink flags to follow because half the time you're not on a trail. And so imagine like you have like your headlamp, like you're looking for a pink flag in front of you, but then you're also like looking over your shoulder for like animals, like bears and any noise you hear behind you. Like, and there's only 60 runners. So like everybody's spread out. Like it's pretty rare that you're running with somebody after the first like marathon. And so it was just like pure solitude.
Mm-hmm.
And it was brutal too, because it was so close after Ouray that I was just like so fatigued and so like done by the start of it that like I wanted to get it done like close to 30 hours. And the second day, like as I got like closer and closer to the second night, it was like demoralizing. Like, oh man, like I've been alone for 2 days now, and like high stress, like insane amounts of cortisol. And yeah, it was really tough, but it it kind of validated like continue and do this, because I ended up like getting like the best lessons out of that race than any of the others. Like I hit my lowest point I've ever been in my life, like in that race.
What was your lowest point?
So it was close. It was the second to last section. You kind of have to go up and over this ridge, and it's totally sandbagged. Like the race is supposed to be like 20 something thousand feet of elevation gain. At that point, climbing up, I was at like 26 or 27.
Oh my gosh.
And
the race director.
Yeah. And going like running, like the section before that was pretty flat and exposed, and it was really hot. And when I got to that aid station before I went up over this ridge, I asked them like, hey, is there going to be any like storms or anything like that? Because yesterday at this time, like that's kind of when they started to roll in. And they were like, nope, like we checked the weather, like not a cloud in the sky. And as I'm like getting close to like where I finally am going to drop down, like I'm like maybe 200, 300 feet from the drop. And these clouds roll in with like the gnarliest thunderstorm that I'd seen all summer.
And what
and
mile is this?
It's like 87.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so like I took shelter because it was like lightning striking like in the vicinity. And so I'm like sitting there kind of making that debate of, do I need to go back for safety? Like, can I wait this one out for 30 minutes? And so I throw on my like emergency rain poncho and like my jacket just to try to like stay warm. And like I literally was like bawling, like why am I doing this? Like why? Like I've been alone, I'm exhausted. I only have like 13 miles, and that 13 miles had another 3,000 foot climb, to be fair. But I was like, I'm so close, and I was like, I just want to be done. Like it just was brutal. And yeah, I think that was the lowest moment like I've ever had. Like normally I'm positive and I can kind of get through anything, and that broke me down like super, super bad.
So at what point did you like pull yourself out of it?
So I kind of was like analyzing the storm like as it was passing, and I saw like the smallest break, and I decided like, you know what, like it's like 200 feet to this ridge. It's like I'm gonna get up and over it, and I'm just gonna like bomb this downhill, like recklessly bomb the downhill. Like I'm going for an FKT. Like
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
On 87 mile lakes.
Yeah. And so I got to the top of the ridge, and it still was like kind of in a clear spot, but like not out of the storm. And I look, and there was like a pretty significant ways to go before I'd be like protected again. And I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. And it's like pure shale and like just the
sliding.
Yeah, like I'm like skiing like down to the tree line.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, I get down there and I saw a bear.
Stop.
Yeah, so it was like everything,
like at the tree line.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you couldn't go into the tree line because of the
Nope.
bear.
Nope. So
A
I had to
grizzly
kind of,
too?
so I had to kind of
Oh
like
my God.
skirt off trail, like get around that. And then once I was protected by the trees and realized like, okay, like I'm not going to get struck by lightning most likely, I was like, now I'm good. And so I kind of cruised through to the next aid station, the last aid station. I wish I remembered her name. The nicest lady like gave me a pair of her socks
Oh.
because I was completely out of like dry clothes by that
Mm.
point. And she was like, oh, it's probably going to take you like 5-6 hours to get over like this last climb. And I was like, no, I was like, you're wrong. I was like, I'm good now. Like I'm finishing this thing.
I'm done.
Yeah.
So
And
how fast did it take you from?
I was like under 3 hours.
Dang.
Yeah,
So you were ready.
I cruised up the last
Yeah.
climb. I was like, I'm so ready to be done. And I think I passed like 4 people on the last downhill, but I had to break out my headlamp. I was trying to not just for the mental like aspect of it, and I broke it out with like 10 minutes left to go.
That's so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds
It's a nuts race.
insane.
It's super
Yeah.
fun, but it's probably gonna take me a while before I even like want to think about doing it again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
To like be waiting on one side of like a pass basically. In a
Like alone.
thunderstorm.
There was no one like.
And you've been alone for like nearly 2 days, you'd said.
Yeah.
And then to get over, like you think you're gonna get struck by lightning, and then there's like a grizzly. I can't even imagine. That's insane. I would be cursing the race director's name.
Yeah, it was
so much.
It was crazy. It was
It sounds fun in like a
if you're into like that
way.
adventure-y thing, like it's definitely a good one. So
so you knew you were gonna finish the slam.
Mm-hmm.
Went on to the bear.
Yep.
And
yeah, at that point it was like not even a discussion. It's like I'm gonna do this now. And the bear was really cool because it was like something that I had always wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And it's like hometown race. Like I know probably 20 people running the race. I know there's going to be people in aid stations volunteering that I know I can get literally all of my friends there. Like, and it was just this like huge celebration. Like I ended up PRing the 100, even though it wasn't like the best race. And
that's cool.
I just had fun with it. You know, it was really cool.
That sounds very fun. How did it feel to finish the slam? Was it anticlimactic? Did it mean something?
No, it definitely meant a lot. Especially looking at like the whole summer and like all of the experiences that I got to have, like accomplishing that goal and pushing through those like insanely deep lows was really, really awesome. And it was really cool too, because I got every single person that helped crew me at the races was there and then some.
That's cool.
So like I had friends that don't even do anything with running that came just to see me. Like my dad and my stepmom flew out from Hawaii to come see me.
Cool.
And like my dad's gonna hate me for saying this, but he's never been like that involved in my sporting throughout my life. And so it was really cool that he took that step to like come and see that and get to see like, okay, what is a 100-miler like? Because you don't understand it until you see it.
I know. What is my son doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was like the coolest part, and like all the friends that were there and just feeling that accomplishment like was really cool. Like we had a house on Bear Lake after, and like seeing the sunrise, and like we cooked dinner outside like Fast and Furious style. Like just a big family, you know, and celebrated, and it was really cool. It was a really special like moment to finish all of that.
So if you could summarize like what you learned from your Grand Slam experience in 2024, what did you learn?
I learned like perseverance, obviously, like getting through those lows and like not selling yourself short. I learned that like as humans, we operate better with like others. It's a lot easier to work with a group than to work on your own. And then I learned just to like think about like your legacy and like how people are going to remember you, and look for those opportunities to build those connections with others, because you know, like there's a quote that haunts me, like you die twice in life, right? Like the first time when you take your last breath, and the second time when somebody says your name for the last time. And so I think about that all the time, and I think about like this summer specifically, like all the people that I was able to meet, all the people that hopefully I had a positive influence on, because they had a positive influence on me. Like I'm going to be telling the stories of all these people that I met and these experiences that I had for forever. And, you know, I hope other people do the same. And so I definitely learned that you got to look for those opportunities and put yourself out there, do these hard things to be able to make them.
That's very cool. It sounds amazing. It sounds so fun and
Yeah.
also so incredibly hard. Like incredibly hard. It's very cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Where do you see like running fitting into your life, like moving forward? Like, do you have big goals for this year? Are you moving toward like FKTs?
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot to be explored with like mountain athletics for me specifically. I feel like I took away from a lot of life, like with my career and with like a whole bunch of different things, like personal life, that I kind of want to give more attention to this year. So I'm kind of dialing back like the races a little bit. Right now I'm planning on doing Crazy Mountain 100 in July.
Fun.
Yeah, that I had such a good time doing it my first time that I want to go back, and I want to put together like a fast race. So like right now I'm kind of trying to maintain and like have fun and like have some cool adventures. But once spring starts to roll around, I'll definitely get more serious and try to put together like a fast Crazy Mountain. And then, yeah, I think the future holds, like I want to experience a 200. I think the longer the distance, like the more I could potentially shine in events like that. I'm not the fastest guy around, but yeah, there's definitely more to be explored for sure.
Yeah, I feel like it would be fun to see you do a 200. You're right. I feel like you would do really well.
I'm very intrigued.
In that scene.
I was stoked on maybe doing Cocodona this year for a while, and there's so much life that has to happen before I can just drop $2,000 to go.
Probably more, honestly, at the end.
Yeah.
I have a friend who said, I won't like name him, but I think he said he spent like 6 or 7 on like the whole experience just because crew stuff happened and whatever. But like, it's not like the dirtbag sport I think that people like to make it out to be. It's like you have to put together some cash to be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean there's ways to make it cheap, but you can't avoid like race entries and at least I can't. yeah
I guess eventually get passed on like a golden ticket or something like that.
yeah for sure.
Well, if you could leave our guests, if there's anyone who like listened to this episode and they like really resonated with anything that you said, if you could leave them with one actionable piece of advice, what would you tell them?
I'd tell them just to like enjoy every moment, like enjoy the training, enjoy the races, like enjoy the suffering, enjoy the people you meet, just because like in all of these experiences there's something to be like taken from, and there are things that can change your life. And so I think just it's okay to slow down sometimes and enjoy like wherever you're in, and just get all the experiences out of life that you can.
I love it.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Kaden.
Yeah, thank you, Abby.